Hello everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. You're with Simon today. And today's video we're going to be looking at the collective transits and your solar return chart. So I find this an interesting topic to talk about and to share because there's a tremendous amount of value that you can actually uncover in this relationship between the collective transits that we are all experiencing and your personal story and integration of these collective transits. Okay, so the way I see it and the way that this video is wanting to encourage you to try out for yourself is, for all of us right now, we are currently going through a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. Okay, the collective is dealing with a Pluto-Jupiter conjunction. We've also been dealing with a Saturn-Pluto conjunction just recently. And all of us have Saturn in Aquarius in terms of the collective transit, right? But what makes it unique for you? What separates your personal experience from the next person? And the solar return is the way that we can be able to differentiate and to find out that answer. So what I'm sharing here is that there's this beautiful synthesis between our collective experience of Saturn in Aquarius and then what that looks like for you personally, right? And the way that we do that is what I want to share with you today. So let me jump onto the screen where that information's there and just kind of make myself available. Hello. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to understand what is a solar return chart. All right. So a solar return chart is a chart that is drawn on the day that your birthday is taking place. All right. And what it reflects, it's like a snapshot of the sky on your birthday. All right. So it lands up looking very similar to your natal chart. Okay. Now, the only difference is that your natal chart itself will have a sun in a specific house and it will stay there. Like for me, it's in the 10th house. But my solar return for this year, my sun sign is in Scorpio 2 degrees, but it's sitting in the first house. So the sun sign stays the same, obviously, because it's a snapshot of the sky from when you were, when it's your birthday. So the sun will always be at the exact same degree. But the houses will shift. And due to the houses shifting, it will give you a very personal reflection of what you'll be dealing with for an entire year. Okay? Now you can add in things like progressions as an example, or secondary progressions, solar arcs. Those are all another ways or layers in which you can see the nature of your sort of evolutionary experience. But for this video, we're going to be looking at what the significance is of the solar return and how that specifically correlates to an evolutionary theme that you'll be dealing with for an entire year. So coming back to the kind of core of this over here, what I wanted to show you was, again, we all have Uranus in Taurus as a collective transit. Okay? So for me, Uranus is in Taurus and it's sitting in a specific house, right? But again, what makes me have Uranus in Taurus transit different to, say, you, as an example? And so the way that we do this is we look at it like this. So firstly, I've got a chart up over here and I want to get my little pen. Let's see if it works. So as you can see, here you have Pluto and Jupiter. This is a chart that was drawn up today. Now, I'm going to use the outer planets and Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn in this case because, of course, they move very slowly. So this is a collective experience. And you can also do this with, obviously, Mercury and Venus and stuff, but the diversity is going to be a lot more. So to just kind of keep with the emphasis of what this is about, we're going to use these outer planets. So as you know, Pluto is sitting at 24 degrees Capricorn, Jupiter's sitting at 26 degrees, and since the beginning of this year, Saturn and Pluto have been making a conjunction with each other. Okay? So for some of you that had your birthday in the beginning of this year, right, this transit will reflect something that has progressed, meaning Saturn is now in Aquarius. All right? But in the beginning of the year, Saturn was in Capricorn. So in your natal chart or in your solar return chart, you'd be dealing with Saturn in Capricorn theme, and say somebody that is born now, for instance, or not born now, but having their birthday now, they'll have Saturn in Aquarius in their solar return chart. So there are slight variations, which is why I would probably only work with Pluto and Neptune and Uranus, because they move so slowly. And again, there's going to be slight variations. So the emphasis is to acknowledge them, but to also recognize that what we are actually focusing here is that we are experiencing a collective Pluto-Jupiter conjunction. Okay? Now that's going to land somewhere in your personal natal chart. So let's see if I can just erase this over here. Okay. So as you can see, Pluto-Jupiter conjunction, this is in Capricorn. And now let's go ahead and have a look at a chart that was drawn, and this is for somebody's birthday. Okay. So here you can see that this person has in their natal chart, in their solar return chart, Saturn in Capricorn. Yeah? There you can see that there. So just to kind of illustrate that. This is a solar return chart for one of our Patreon subscribers. They were kind enough to volunteer their chart for us. And as you can see, it looks very similar to your natal chart. Now, as you can see, this is the current transits in a personal house system. So what we've done is we've gone, okay, well, everybody's having this Pluto-Jupiter conjunction, everybody's having this Pluto-Saturn conjunction, but as I said, for this person particularly, they will have this Pluto in the 9th house. So you can have somebody else, for instance, that will have it in the 5th, right? And that's the point here, it's a differentiation. And why is this interesting to look at? Well, from an evolutionary astrology perspective, of course, we are in a constant state of change. We are in a constant state of mutation. And so the progressions or the solar arcs or our solar return charts reflect to us the ongoing evolutionary themes, and in this case, what you will experience in a year. And why is that significant? Because when you look at Pluto as an example, Pluto has been moving through Capricorn since 2008, okay? Which means that since 2008, which is 12 years ago, okay, this person would have had Pluto in a specific location in their chart, right? They would have had Pluto in Capricorn. So they've had 12 years of Pluto in Capricorn, and in those 12 years, that Pluto would have landed in different houses. And because of that, that means that those themes each year would have collectively added up to a series of experiences that have shaped and changed this person. And the same applies to you. That Pluto for the last 12 years has landed in different parts of your solar return chart, and each year will reflect a specific evolutionary theme that over a span of 12 years will reflect the nature of what is here for you that you've evolved through. And that's how you can see the kind of shifting and changing of your psychological and emotional evolutionary themes and dynamics. It's pretty neat. So again, coming back to what I'm reflecting here is that if you have a look at this person's chart, you can see that they have, if you analyze it from an evolutionary astrology perspective, here's Pluto in the 9th house of the astrology chart, okay? Now in EA, we will look at the 9th house, we will look at the planet Jupiter, and we'll look at the sign of Sagittarius, okay? As the synthesis of the archetype of one's personal cosmology and truth. Now, if you look here, for 1 year, this person will be experiencing Pluto in their 9th house. So they're actually experiencing individually something that's actually being experienced collectively, right? They're having a psychological and emotional um, unveiling of their own personal truth, right? So whenever we have Pluto in the ninth house as your solar return, you'll experience for that year deep mutation around your personal cosmology, your personal sense of truth. What is the thing that you feel that is your personal, like, umbrella that you use to validate and understand the nature of reality? Okay? Now you can see here that Saturn's also sitting very closely to that Pluto. And if you notice, Saturn and Pluto are in a new phase relationship, meaning that Saturn and Pluto are they've just started a new cycle. So for this person, that new cycle that we all experience collectively will actually land in the sector of their chart that has to do with their personal faith, their personal truth. Okay, new horizons, exploring new dimensions of reality, you know. Now look at the repeating theme here. Jupiter, which is the sign that is associated with Sagittarius, which is associated with the ninth house, is actually sitting in the 8th house of the astrology chart, which again correlates to the archetype of Pluto, correlates to the archetype of Scorpio. So you have this repeating theme that Pluto in the ninth house is shifting this person's sense of philosophy and core truth, and that their actual Jupiter placement is sitting in the house that is also advocating an intense psychological and emotional shift within their sense of self. Look at these repeating themes for the entire year. If you notice, their north node is sitting in the 2nd house. Okay. And that's in the sign of Cancer. So for this person, for the year, they'll be focusing specifically on integrating an entirely new structure of values and needs that are essential to their way of life. So we're all experiencing at that point when this person had their birthday, which was in February this year. So this is a solar return for February this year. And that will last 1 year up until February next year, of course. And that's when the chart will change. So in February, the nodes, as in the North Node, was sitting at 6 degrees Cancer. So we were all experiencing the North Node in Cancer. But for this person, this was specifically orientated towards their sense of values, their sense of essential need, and to basically establish an entirely new sense of self, Cancer, that is orientated towards what it is that is essential for them. What is the essential value system that they will use to validate their truth? Each cosmology, each personal truth has a core value system in it. Okay. Now notice Uranus sits in Taurus. Remember, but this is actually sitting in the 12th house. So in terms of the archetype of Uranus, you can see here that for an entire year, this person will be experiencing a shift, okay, around culminating, as in closing up, the 12th house, closing up the sense of truth and sense of value structure that is associated with their life up until now. So I bet you that since February this year, this person will progressively experience radical shifts within their sense of understanding about the nature of the cosmos, the universe, and their personal life, and even to the point of, what is it that I actually believe? And you can see that Uranus will actually suggest an underlying sense of culmination, letting go, surrendering, 12th house. Okay, that's something that's occurring for now. We remember, all of us have got Uranus and Taurus. We're all having our values shifted. But the way that this person will experience it will be through a 12th house theme in relation to, say, like myself, where my Uranus is sitting in my 4th house. Okay, let's get the eraser. Check this out. So here you go again. Notice there's Neptune. Okay, Neptune sits right on top of this person's moon sign. So again, you see here that collectively we all have Neptune in Pisces, but for this person, the whole entire year, they're going to feel that Neptune really deeply affect their sense of self-image. That they're really going to experience a complete loss of life direction relative to the old ways in which they've experienced meaning. And that progressively, as they progressively go through this year, they'll find new value structures, new meaning in those value structures that will lead to a complete restructuring of their cosmology and truth. And that's the magic in this video today, is to reveal that every single one of you has this like individual specific storyline that's unique to you. And of course, this happens every year, right? And so that is this beautiful synthesis between how you can see the collective transits almost funneled into your personal sphere, and how that becomes your personal evolution that then spans out to then connect back to the collective way in which we are all individuating ourselves. Okay? So let's take another example. Let's look at another chart. Let's see if it will show up. Okay. Again, thanks very much to all of to the Patreon subscribers for desiring to volunteer their chart today. Okay. All right. So here you have a chart of somebody who's going to be having their solar return in April, just coming up. And if you notice, Saturn is in Aquarius, whereas the previous chart, Saturn was in Capricorn. Also, you'll notice that Jupiter is now in a new phase, as in it's past Pluto, whereas the previous one was there. You notice that. Again, what are we illustrating here? We're illustrating the fact that each of us has a unique interaction with the collective transits. And so here you can see this symbolism between Uranus conjunct the Sun, right? And look at the North Node. The North Node sitting in the 11th house of the astrology chart. The 11th house of the astrology chart and the sign of Uranus are the same archetype. Notice how Aquarius, which is the same sign, which is the same energy as Uranus, which is the same energy as the 11th house, has got Mars in it for the entire year and Saturn in the entire year. Can anybody guess what's going on here? Do you find it interesting and kind of a little bit weird at the same time that here you have the synchronicity where Jupiter and Pluto are sitting in the 5th house of the astrology chart, which is the same archetype as the Sun. Look at the rising sign, Leo, instinctual self-discovery. And then you have Sun conjunct Uranus, self-actualization in regards to one's personal truth and collective truth. Look at where Jupiter's sitting, in the same house as the sign that's ruled by the Sun. And Pluto's there. So while everybody is having, on this day, Sun conjunct Uranus transit, this person will have this experience for the entire year, and it will be specifically individuating their core sense of purpose and what that means to them, for them collectively. Pretty neat, isn't it? And again, I mean, it's crazy to see at how many of these synchronicities just show up. And that's the point here. Look at this. Let's try and get that. Come on. Look at that. Mars in Aquarius, sitting in there. North Node in the 11th house. Individuation. Pluto conjunct Jupiter in the 5th house. So the collective experience, we're all having the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction, but in this case, it's sitting in their 5th house of self-actualization. Entirely new structural belief system that's rooted in their personal sense of creative meaning. So Jupiter-Pluto, for this person, is a new entire philosophy around, how do they express themselves? How do they show up in the world and reveal their shining light? How are they seen? And then you have Uranus conjunct the Sun, situated in the 9th house. Self-actualization through cosmology. And then the North Node sitting there in the 11th house, suggesting and indicating an entirely new way of identifying themselves relative to the collective. It's pretty neat, isn't it? Okay. So I hope that that kind of gave you some inspiration and it gave you an interesting look or take at seeing how solar return charts are pathways of individuation in relationship to the collective transits, and that we are all unique and that we are all differentiated, and that throughout our lives, the process of individuation, the process of finding who we are individually in relation to the collective charts, is seen through progressions and such, but solar return charts. Okay. All right, everybody. So I really hope that you found some value in this process. If you found value and you're interested in wanting to work with myself, in the description and in the comments is a link to our website. Thank you very much to our Patreon subscribers for offering your charts, Monica Bravo and Abigail Love. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And if you want to participate in more of these types of teachings, you can join our Patreon membership if that feels correct for you, and I'll put a link to the description as well. We do loads of other things there, other conversations that we have, live conversations. And one last thing, if you are still interested in wanting to study astrology with myself and you like the way I teach, up until the end of this week, we have a special offer that if you purchase the entire school, you also get a live reading with me for free. So the links to our website and to that offer and to our Patreon will be in the comments and the description of this video, okay? Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to comment if you found something valuable in this. And until the next video, take care. Bye-bye.